Now to President Biden's historic and heartfelt address to the nation last night, his first public remarks since deciding to exit the 2024 presidential race.
My fellow Americans, it's been the privilege of my life to serve this nation for over 50 years. Nowhere else on earth could a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, one day sit behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. But here I am. That's what's so special about America. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. We can never forget that. And I never have. I've made it clear that I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now will determine our fate of our nation and the world for decades to come. I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. But there's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now. Over the next 6 months, I'll be focused on doing my job as president. That means I'll continue to lower costs for hardworking families, grow our economy. I'll keep defending our personal freedoms and our civil rights, from the right to vote to the right to choose. I'll keep calling out hate and extremism. Make it clear there is no place in America for political violence or any violence ever, period. I'm going to keep speaking out to protect our kids from gun violence, our planet from climate crisis that is the existential threat. And I will keep fighting for my cancer moonshot so we can end cancer as we know it, because we can do it. And I'm going to call for Supreme Court reform because this is critical to our democracy, Supreme Court reform. You know, I will keep working to ensure America remains strong and secure and the leader of the free world.
And the president just posted moments ago, I draw strength and find joy in working for the American people. But the sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you. It's about we, the people. We can never forget that. And I never have. Mike Barnicle, take us inside the human side of this speech, as the president really gave anyone watching last night a sense that it's up to you, America. I've set out the vision for democracy to survive, and now it's time to pass the baton.
Mika, nowhere else on earth could a kid with a stutter from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, from modest beginnings, sit behind the resolute desk as President of the United States. And yet, here I am. That was Joseph R. Biden last night, the President of the United States. There was no bitterness, no resentment, no self-pity in his voice or in his presentation. His family sat to the left of the resolute desk, his wife, his children, as he gave that address, as he walked into history. And history these days doesn't move like a clock, it moves like a stopwatch. It's so fast. The speed of history is frightening sometimes. And he is now part of history, always will be. He spoke to with his family right there, but part of it seemed to me that he was speaking to the American family as well. He asked the question during the course of his speech, does character in public life still matter? Well, I would submit that it does, and I would submit that last night you saw a portrait of character in the President of the United States. And going forward, I think his place in history is well sealed by his presidency, by the accomplishments of his presidency, by his withdrawal from the presidency. You can only imagine how difficult it is for anyone to give up such power. We can't really imagine it because we've never held power in our hands the way a president of the United States does. We've seen what happens when a president misuses power. We've seen what happens when a sitting president refuses to cede power. And now America has been given an object lesson in character and history by a man. Here I am, Joe Biden, behind the Resolute desk, ceding power.
And that is strength, by the way, to those who misunderstand what that word means. Let's bring in staff writer at The New Yorker, Susan Glasser, who's writing about Biden's farewell, as well as Kamala Harris's entrance into the raise her moment, really. She is now by far the younger candidate, that is for sure, lined up against Trump. And Donald Trump, Susan, stepped up his attacks against Kamala Harris yesterday. We'll show some of that in just a bit. But your thoughts on the piece you've written about this incredible moment in history.
Yeah, I know. What a breathtaking week. The problem is that history moves so quickly. It's hard to remember that it was only a week ago was the Republican convention in the shadow of Trump's assassination attempt. I talked to somebody the other day who said, enough with the unprecedented. How about a little bit of precedented now? But, President Biden's speech, I think, it showed the extent to which Donald Trump still hangs over our politics, right? In many ways, Biden became president in 2020 because he was the Democratic candidate who most clearly articulated the threat from Donald Trump. And now the reason that his own party essentially pushed him aside was because they no longer believed that he was the one who could beat Donald Trump, that it's again, the Trump factor. But I noted that in a rally right before Biden's address last night, Donald Trump was back to his sharp attacking ways, practically laughing at the people who claimed last week without any real basis that he was going to be reformed and a kinder, gentler version of himself. He said, basically, forget about that. I'm going to be a little bit not nice. I'm going to be not nice. Yeah. And I think this is one where we can take him at his word, Mika. The race to define Kamala Harris is on. I think the attack is going to be enormous. It is going to be nasty. Yeah. And she has a very short window to define herself.
Yeah, well, why don't we take a look? Here's Donald Trump on the campaign trail in Charlotte, North Carolina yesterday, focusing on Kamala Harris. Take a look.
I was supposed to be nice. They say something happened to me when I got shot. I became nice. And when you're dealing with these people, they're very dangerous people. When you're dealing with them, you can't be too nice. You really can't be. So if you don't mind, I'm not going to be nice. Is that okay? So now we have a new victim to defeat. Lion Kamala Harris. Lion. L-Y-I-N apostrophe. One of the countries, the president of the country, I know every one of them. They're very smart people. They're very sharp. They're at the top of their game. Our guy was not at the top, and this one is just, she never could be. By the way, lousy student, failed her law exams. Did you know that she couldn't pass her bar? She couldn't pass her bar exams. Lion Kamala is also a total radical on a word called, do you know this, right? A word called what? Abortion. She refuses to go to Bibi Netanyahu is in Washington. She refuses to do that. Even if you're against Israel or you're against the Jewish people, show up and listen to the concept. But she's totally against the Jewish people. Kamala even wants to pass laws to outlaw red meat to stop climate change. And You know what that means? That means no more cows. You know, this is serious. No, this means no more cows. I guess eventually she's going to mean no more people, right? No more people. She shouldn't even be allowed to run for president, what she's done. She's committing crimes. You're not going to teach a criminal not to be a criminal. It's just not going to happen.
Just to clarify, of course,
Confession,
her husband Doug
projection.
is Jewish. Doug Emhoff,
Yeah.
her husband.
He's Jewish. She married a Jewish dude. Yeah. So, yeah, she's not against the Jewish people. Yeah. She married a Jewish guy. She is seeing Benjamin Netanyahu. I think she's meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu later today. She is. I love this whole idea that the vice president of the United States is stupid. Again, here's somebody who is an attorney, a prosecutor, the elected attorney general of the biggest state in America, fourth largest economy in the world, U.S. senator elected from that same state, just like she was elected as attorney general in the state of California. And Eddie Glaude, it's just kind of laughable when you talk about stupidity, pointing at Kamala Harris when you have Donald Trump talking yesterday about how bad America was. America was, what did he say? America is a stupid country. So everybody's stupid, I guess. America is a stupid country, despite the fact we have the strongest military, the strongest economy, the strongest tax sector. Like, we're going to dominate AI. I could go down the list. Not really stupid. We're dominating the world in every way you want to dominate the world: economically, militarily, politically, culturally, you name it. So three things here we heard. One, America's a stupid country. Two, if Kamala Harris is elected, there will be no more cows. And three, if Kamala Harris is elected, there will be no more people. And he got cheers for that. I don't really know what else to say.